Hello, hello, hello. Yay, how are you guys doing on this beautiful Saturday? I have on our Saturday installment where we talk all things serious, all things inner alignment, inner growth, inner peace, relationship alignment, relationship peace, relationship growth. So what came up this week, which normally would help align us to really deal with things as they are happening. If you've seen the news, the relationship between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, the fight and the toxicity that has been, I'm going to call it reported mostly by most magazines, and also the leaked voice notes that now between the couple. In one of them, guys, he even says we are a crime scene waiting to happen, meaning we are so toxic with each other that we could find ourselves as part of the news if we don't stop, if we don't do anything to change. So I have with me Coach Londi to help us in our relationship growth journey, so that we can really get to when you are being invited to toxicity. How do we start and how do we get there? And if we find ourselves almost becoming a crime scene to happen, what can we do for the growth that we need, either to coexist in the relationship or to part ways in a way that helps us? Welcome, Coach Londi. How are you
Hello.
doing?
Hello,
I'm
hello,
fine.
everybody. Hi,
Yeah. Yes, I'm just checking your bandwidth, checking my bandwidth. I am here. Welcome. Thank you for being here. So today is a bit sensitive in that we are talking toxicity, sometimes by both of us and sometimes by one person.
mm-hmm.
So, Coach, my first question is, where does it start? So, if my partner is toxic and wants to be physical all the time, how can a person move away from that? Or how can we address it at root cause?
Okay. So, hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you, Coach, for having me. So, it all goes back to toxicity in relationships. How do we get there? Number one, our relationships, before we even get to the relationship, let's speak about the individual. So, as an individual, you are either committed to your healing or you are committed to your woundedness. And it is that commitment that you've made to yourself. So, how you identify yourself, your own sense of identity. So, the more you identify yourself as victim, you are committed to your wounds. And the more you identify yourself as a victor, you are more committed to your healing. And what the relationship will do is it will bring a person into your life that will either be your wounded partner, so you are a partner in your wounds, or is going to be a partner in your healing. So that's how we get it, because you will always be your own point of attraction. So it's basically on how you identify yourself and what your commitment to your own life and your evolution and your own journey is. The more you consider yourself a victim, you are going to attract people that are going to assist you to remain a victim. The more you identify yourself as a victor, you are going to attract people that are going to facilitate and help you grow.
Awesome. So let's say now you say we attract to who we are in terms of the level we're at. So either a partner in healing or a partner in my woundedness or in my hurt. So when we look at this clip, he says I want to leave, and the challenge is when he says he wants to leave, then the partner laid charges against him, saying you've abused me, you've done this, and everyone then came out in support of the gentleman to say actually you're the one who starts fights. So when we have come I'm going to call it, we are now used to this happening all the time, and we participated. So how do we move ourselves from that? So how do we choose ourselves?
Okay, that's fantastic. So when a relationship, when you either are going to outgrow the relationship or it's going to outgrow you. So when you participate um, deliberately in your own evolution journey and in your own growth, there needs to be an alignment. And this is where we miss it. So we have this memorized state of being where we have been used to. Remember the last time we were laughing about the dance? This is what I want. This is what I'm used to. It goes back to that situation again. I really want out of this relationship, but I am so used to the toxicity because it has become my identity. I don't know anything but what I am used to. And here's what I want over there. So, how do you get out of the dance of this is what I want, this is what I'm used to? How do you get out of the dance of that dance? You need to first, and the trouble is we say one thing, we do something else, and we contemplate different things in our minds. So there needs to be an alignment between what you are contemplating in your mind, between what you are speaking in your mouth, and between the action. So when you get to a moment of decision, your moment of decision, your choices, they need to support the decision that you've made. If you've made a decision that I want to leave, and you make choices that go against the decision, then obviously there's going to be a misalignment there. So, and another very important thing we need to understand is when you finally really made a decision, you really ever go and announce, I've made a decision XYZ. We see by your action. That's the moment where your action speaks louder than your words. So, in relationships, the toxicity is a result of codependency. For as long as you identify and you use your relationship as a resource for your sustenance, and you see yourself leaving this relationship as a threat to your sustenance, you see it as a threat to how you validate and how you measure your self-worth and your worthiness and the things you deserve in life. So the moment you use your relationship as a resource for sustenance, as a resource to measure your self-worth, as a resource to hide your insecurities, you are going to feel and struggle with letting go because now you are codependent. The relationship is no longer your playing field for expression. It's now a resource for sustenance, and you go into survival mode because you're now at the threat of losing. So it's no longer when you are growing, you focus on what you are gaining, and whatever happens is a means to an end. When you are in survival mode, you look at what is the cost. So when you see you're leaving the relationship and exiting as something that's going to cost you, that's when you get stuck in the dance because you don't want to lose. This is what I want, this is what I don't want. And so you fail to meet the alignment. So to get into that space of alignment, the same way you made a decision, and you need to heal your toxicity first. You need to understand what the relationship, you will not be able to walk out of a relationship with integrity if you are unable to look at yourself and honor yourself with integrity. Until you are vulnerable to yourself and you are honest enough with yourself and you let go and you surrender yourself to yourself, you will not be able to surrender yourself to change or to anything that you do not know or understand.
That was deep. And surrender yourself to yourself before you can surrender yourself to change, growth, learning, presence. That on its own, I think it's a chapter. My next question, looking at the toxicity evolution, Normally, everything starts with a small scratch. It moves to a small clap. Next thing, a punch. Next thing, a kick. Next thing, a knife, a gun. That escalation. What I want to say, what causes that, or how can we mitigate ourselves moving through the escalation line or journey so that we do not become a crime scene waiting to happen?
Crime scene waiting to happen. That's very interesting. So we get to being crime scenes waiting to happen again. There's in my book I write about the 8 different types of love experiences. And there are 2 that are very challenging. There's the pragma love, and then there's the obsessive love. And both of these 2 are linked to you identifying yourself and your identity being directly linked to the person you are in relationship with. And you directly linking your identity to the external factors. So, for instance, in a pragma relationship, it's for most of us when we start career goals, when we start moving in together, that transition between it was just the 2 of us, now there's us and children, there's and a house, there's us and bills, there's us and these things. So our relationship goals transform from you and me expressing our love to each other to you and me contributing to the sustenance of our lifestyle. And immediately when that shift is made, there's a sense of self-abandonment. You find that people no longer care, or they forget, or they focus more on the external things that are happening. We must make sure we have rent at the end of the month. We must make sure we can pay the bills. We must make sure the kids go to school. We then wear all these other hats, and we hardly ever have room to wear the hat of you and me, to wear the hat of me as an individual. So we've moved from the lovebirds that we were, and we were identifying ourselves as, to roommates. Because if you were to leave me now, I won't be able to make ends meet. And it's those type of situations. And if we are not consciously aware and putting into place rituals that keep pulling us back into alignment, that keep pulling us back into this thing that made us come together in the first place, we lose sight of that. And it becomes about all of these things that we have found on the way that we have now attached ourselves to. And because we spend so much time and effort and energy trying to sustain these things, we fear losing them and we want to hold on because it hurts. How can I lose it after I've had to tolerate my boss, after I've had to go to a job that I hate, after I've had to deal with your parents, the in-laws, your friends, all of those things? We look again at the cost. We no longer see the value. And that's how we get to those situations where it was first a scratch, and then it became a saw, a slap, a punch, all of those things, because I am releasing the frustrations of trying to hold on to all these things that we have introduced. We have introduced all these things. We introduced the children into our union. We introduced the installments into our union. We introduced the lifestyle into our union. When you and I first met and we were totally dependent on biology doing its thing, all of these things were not involved. Then we went and we grabbed all of them, brought them all in, and we lost sight of the emotional part of it. And now it becomes about all the stuff that we've brought into the relationship.
Whoa, that's deep. But isn't that part of the process to bring or evolve into all of those things? So how do we support ourselves as we are evolving from biology, me and you, to the things that come with us saying we are experiencing our lives together?
That's fantastic. We're supposed to do all those things. That makes it fun to get all of those things. What we do is, because we were conditioned for lack a lot of us were conditioned for lack. We were conditioned that we need to choose. We don't know about this and that. We know about this or that. So because we feel we need to choose between the stuff and the us, we get mixed up, we get caught up, we don't know what to do. Because we were conditioned for either or. No, never this and that. So that's where it goes back to. It's all of this, what I call emotional inheritance. We inherited these emotional states of being that we always find a way to revert ourselves back to, so that we can go back to feeling victimized, so that we can go back to feeling embarrassed and ashamed, so that we can go back to feeling needy. So until we deal with this, because the emotions are the life force. So when we neglect the emotions and we pay attention to everything else that's going on around us, we repress, we suppress, and we get to a point of numbness. And when you get to that point of numbness, they will eventually, because energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed from one form to another. It will come out as that gunshot because it's been suppressed inside there. It will come out as that first. So we need to get into deliberately make a decision. We've been taught to mind first, even in places of heart first. So it's fine. We will eventually get the mind and the heart to trust each other, but it's going to need deliberate attention, deliberate effort for me to get my mind to trust my heart and my heart to trust my mind, because we were told we must choose either the mind or either the heart. Never that these two can coexist in harmony. So it's deliberately getting yourself to allow your mind and your heart to coexist in harmony.
And to be present in the journey. My second last question is, when the other partner says, actually, we are not getting better, I want to leave. This physicality, you're always becoming physical. And of course, I end up retaliating. So let's separate, let's leave each other. And the one who normally starts says, I'm going to change. So, and it came that, narcissists, personalities, they never want you to leave, because if I can't have you, nobody can have you mentality. So to get ourselves out of the hope of someone, I'm going to change, but without the work to ensure that we are doing something to heal and be able to then be partners in healing, not partners in hurt or woundedness. So what can we do there to say, are we still staying for the right reasons, and are we doing the work in the staying so that we can evolve out of this pattern? And third to that is, if kids grew up with parents who used to do that, who used to be physical with one another, at what point have we really dealt with the impact of that? Like, really, the trauma that comes with that, but also us as children having observed it.
Okay, let's start with the I want to leave part of it. I'm ready to leave, and my partner keeps saying I'm gonna change. I went through a process when, after my husband's retrenchment, after we found ourselves with nothing but a suitcase and 3 kids and a few black plastic bags to show for our 10 years of life together, we got to a place where we had to pause and take stock. Né? And when we went and we asked for help, one of the things that I learned that has helped us was the fact that you actually need distance and space, not space apart from each other, but space from the toxicity itself. So how do you get the space from the toxicity itself? You start by changing that state of being that you are used to. Now, we've been taught that we need to find different strategies, do different rituals, do this, do that, but never how to transform our state of being. And in order for you to experience any change, you need to first change your state of being. And how do you do that? You get to that point where it's important to go to Eboniswa, who is in that state. Number one, identify what state do I want to be in. Identify the environment that has that state. How can I support myself to get into that state? For some people, it's as simple as you want to be happier. You don't want to be grumpy. You can do simple things like, okay, how do I get to be happier? How does happiness even come about in the body physically? Never mind spiritually. In the body physically, how does happiness happen? Happiness is secreted. So how the hormone, how do I get to increase the hormone in the body? Those are things like exercise. Those are things like changing your diet. Those are things, practical things that you need to learn what you don't know in order for you to do what you've never done. You cannot go and create a change with the same tools, with the same mentality, with the same state of being, with the same thought process, with the same action that you created the problem. So learn what you don't know. That's the first point of how you start to change. Learn what you don't know. In order for you to do things you've never done, you need to learn things you don't know. You can only do what you know. So learn what you don't know. That's the first thing. And for children who have grown up in these unfortunate environments, and they have to deal with the inheritance of the trauma and the abuse, again, it's a process of expose yourself to what is unfamiliar. Expose yourself to something different. Find a friend who does not know this so that they can teach you what they know. A coach of mine said when he went and visited, I interviewed him a while ago. He went and visited a friend who went to a private school, and he was in a public school. And when he got there, he saw there's food in the fridge. You can eat whatever you want, things that he'd never known. The parents are sober, the parents talk nicely, and he made sure that this person becomes his best friend so that he could spend as much time as possible with this thing that he is unfamiliar with. So spend as much time as is possible with what you want and you are striving and thriving towards. And spend less time and energy and effort on what you don't want. Now we get used to this, so move more to this is what I want.
Not what I'm used to.
Not what I'm used to. What I'm used to will give you more of what you're used to. What I want, expose yourself to what you don't know. Learn what you don't know. Expose yourself to what you ultimately want. You will need to create the space. You will need to create the distance. There is no way. If you want to leave, you create distance. If you want to stay together, you minimize distance. That's how relationships work. You increase the proximity if you want to stay together. If you want to part ways, you start creating distance. So if it means instead of waking up and spending the whole day together, you take 15 minutes and say, I'm going for a walk, that distance is going to shift things. If it means you spend an hour at work, or even if you are home, you become busy with something that's not going to allow you to be in the space of the toxicity, that space is going to create a difference.
Got it. Last one, coach. I posted a video of this lady who's burning someone's car, presumably. Someone who did something to her, even though she nearly died herself. When we get to those levels of acting out our frustration, acting out our pain. I'm going to call it toxicity manifest, basically, where we could end up in jail, how it's another level of self-abandonment, but I would like you to just say a focus on how that situation should be able to ding, 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 in our head to say something is wrong. Call yourself to yourself.
Yeah, because that one has nothing to do with the owner of the car. That is all J. Okay. That is all okay. And until she makes and she realizes, for a breakthrough to happen, you need to reach your own level, your threshold of pain. So until she reaches her threshold of pain, she's not going to receive the breakthrough. That's why she needed to go and get hurt herself in the process of hurting the man. Lapho, when you get hurt yourself in the process of trying to hurt the other, you will eventually get to that threshold where you say, la, enough is enough. This is not working. And if you fail, so this is something, it normally scares my clients when I say this. When I say, you know what, at the end of the day, the soul will always win. When I say the soul will always win, if you refuse, you blatantly refuse to learn the lesson and get out of there. If you refuse to learn the lesson and get out of there, lalela, you are going to lose. The soul will just decide, lalela, this body is just not functional for me, and exit, leaving you there to be discarded with.
Coach,
that scare people, but if really, when it's painful, people suffering, we must just get that thing into our heads. Suffering is not for us. This long suffering and all these things, it's not for us. The pain is there not as a means of a punishment or as something that we need to get to. It's a communication mechanism. Get the communication and get out of there.
But Coach,
otherwise,
wait.
the soul will be the boat, the body will stay so long gone, incarnating somewhere else.
But Coach, we are not even thinking there yet. If this person has hurt me and I'm feeling this pain, you see now you're saying her burning the car has nothing to do with the other person. But the other person did something as well.
Until you get out of the blame game, Pella, when you are committed to blame, and yet you're committed to being a victim. There are levels. You will keep increasing about the same way. People keep increasing in their levels of success. You will keep increasing in your level of suffering. You will keep increasing in your level of suffering until you decommit.
Yeah, no, that one was too funny for me. I haven't laughed like that. You know what?
That one I did see. I was like, okay, should have gotten stuck. A bit.
And when she likes it, yo, Coach, the work we do. Coach, how do we get hold of your book? You cited something from your book. How can people get hold of your book?
Oh, I'll drop a link. It's available on Kindle, so I'll just drop a link and then you just follow the link and get yourself a copy.
Yazi ukuthini, this thing yothando ne. Doing isikole man. Why is there no class esikolweni? Sidinga class but because.
It's the hardest thing.
Coach, closing comments. Closing comments, Coach.
Okay, so with this relationship thing, there really is no right, wrong, this is how, this is not how. There is just the bottom line of understanding the fundamental of what a relationship is about. Choosing to totally abandon this idea and this belief that a relationship is meant to be a place where you receive sustenance, where you receive completion, where you receive all of these things that we were taught to go and seek. There is nothing you need to seek in a relationship or seek in another person that you cannot find in yourself. So use the relationships as feedback and as a school of life for you, as a support system of life for you. And if you don't know how, go learn. Learn it. If it's not working for you, go learn something else. It the same we everything we know is something we learned. So be deliberate about learning about yourself. Be deliberate about learning about relationships. Be deliberate about learning about life. There are laws and rules to this life thing that nobody ever mentioned to us. We had to learn the same way we learned everything else. And a lot of what we learned was very, very misguided. We appreciate it because now it has given us the contrast for us to be able to choose. That's how we exercise free will.
Thank you so much, Juan, for engaging, but most importantly for making me laugh. Me, coach, me, I love.
You're turning me into a comedian. Listen here, I know my job description.
When I coach, you deal with things people don't tell other souls. So please, you need to laugh.
I know, hey? It's the only way I can win with my people. If I don't make them laugh, they are going to go and hang themselves.
It's serious. Matters of the heart, like what you're saying though, in terms of education and how the matters of the heart are neglected. And yet, in our generation, I even wrote this morning that we are physically the most comfortable generation in terms of we don't go collect wood for fire and whatever else. But are we truly the most peaceful? Are we truly the most joyful? Are we truly the most intelligent in terms of how to grow each other as a race or as a generation? And normally the answer is not so much. So the heart part, the emotional part is where we need to focus so that we can truly align and unleash our power.
Mm. And it's important because now that you mention it, for us to recognize that we are the generation that is meant to deal with the matters of the heart aligning with the mind, because we
Yeah.
don't have that added back then
Pressure.
life was about survival
Survival.
through physical work,
Yeah.
survival through labor. Now our
Force.
survival is dependent on our hearts aligning with our mind and our mind aligning with our heart. Our survival. I was telling my husband the other day that for our children, they are going to be lucky because they will finally live in a world where love means love, where love is not fear
Mm.
disguised. And because we
Mm.
were taught, we were given a label, a bottle labeled love, and inside was fear. That's what happened to
Wait,
us.
wait, coach. The bottle is Coca-Cola. Inside there's Pips.
Yeah, when I Pepsi is related to Coca-Cola, don't play here. Inside the bottle, I was, you know what we used to do, my friend and I, back when we were in university and we were stealing Saints Tony in the class. We would
Yeah.
sit in front of our mother and we would carry coffee mugs and pretend we are drinking coffee. And no, Mama was thinking we are drinking coffee, but we are busy with the Saints in the kitchen. So it's that type of the mug says coffee mug. The
Uh-huh.
content say la la la
And when
la.
you taste it, you're like,
And no mama just sees the volume going up and the energy goes, how? Can't you let coffee? How? And can you why people need more than one cup of coffee these days? Same situation.
oh, coach, thank you so much. May you have an awesome day and hope to chat to you soon. Oh my God, July is finished. So see you in August. See you in what we're preparing for the ladies in terms of relationship transformation. Can't wait to share that. And I'm going to enjoy every moment of the day.
Yes, thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.